Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 14 of Big at the Back. And I am back. I'm sure you've all missed me an awful lot. Matt, it's terrible to see you again. How are you?
Don't worry, the feeling's mutual. I had a nice time last week just chatting shit and talking to myself. Just felt like a standard day in the life of Matt. But yeah, I'm all right. I would say it's good to have you back, but that would be an absolute liar. But I'll be cordial anyway. And how was your trip?
Thank you very much. Yeah, a day in the life of Matt. It was a fascinating insight last week, I must say. The trip was good. We did Greek island hopping. So we went to Athens. I am obsessed with Greek history, so I was like a kid at Christmas. Mykonos was glorious as well. Santorini, not quite as good as we had hoped, because we've done Mykonos beforehand. But either way, it was an amazing trip and nice to get away for the whole time as well.
Very nice indeed. And did you get to watch much football? That's the most important thing.
So I did. Half the bars in Santorini and Mykonos actually were actually showing a lot of the football. So I probably watched more than I was on a normal weekend, which is a little bizarre. And of course, we were keeping up as well. I'll be honest, I wasn't exactly in the best frame of mind to tactically analyze the football. I don't think I spent much of that entire week sober, but I tried to get as much as I could regardless.
That's the way it should be, though.
That is the way it should be. So looking at fantasy football then, let's dive straight into it and see how our teams are doing, with obviously Chelsea Man U to be played on Thursday. But how have you got on this week, Matt?
Oh, it's been a bang average week, I think, really, for me. Currently sat on 52 points. No hits this week for once, so just a straight 52. Salah captain, which was okay, I guess. I was obviously hoping for a little bit more against a very poor Everton side. Other than that, the only real returns, Saka was the main one for me on 13. Trent with a clean sheet, Matt Target with a clean sheet, St. Maximan with an assist as well. But other than that, it's a lot of 1s, 2s and 3s. Reece James still to play potentially if he's going to play in that second fixture, because obviously he didn't in the first. But yeah, it was sort of pretty average for me. And I'm now convinced that João Cancelo is a fantasy football fraud because Man City couldn't even keep a clean sheet against Watford when I doubled up on City defenders.
Yeah, I think Cancelo, unfortunately, he's a hold. You can't sell him now. But we'll come on to that in a minute. I had actually, I'm on exactly the same score as you. So I'm on 56 -4 as it's showing on FPL at the moment. That includes Rudiger, who didn't play and isn't likely to play against Man United, which means I'll also have Weghorst coming off my bench for 5. So I'm on 61 -4 overall, which is 57. Yeah, 57. I had a moment there.
Big simple maths, really hard.
It's too early in the morning for this. Schmeichel in goal with 8 was great. Alonso with 10 and still has Man U to play. And I'd expect him to get some attacking returns there because he was by far and away Chelsea's best attacking threat. Saka, as you mentioned, with 13. Salah captaincy didn't really pay off, but a return in what is normally quite a cagey game, I'll take it. The annoying thing is I had Alonso vice, so if I had just got all in on the doubler, then I would be even stronger right now. But overall, a good game week. I'm back in the top 100k, actually up to 90k as it stands, with still the Chelsea guys left to play. I've got Alonso and James, and as mentioned, Rudiger, but if he doesn't play, Weghorst will. So looks like a strong game week for me, and looks like the charge for the top 50 is very much on and very much going for myself right now.
Big last few weeks will get you there. Yeah, I was quite surprised to see I've still got a slight green arrow to 32,100. So very minimal gain, but I'll take it. We'll obviously see how Thursday's game will affect that, but fingers crossed it doesn't hit me too hard.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's dive straight into the fixtures then, because there's loads to speak about. And let's start actually with the one that really, really upset fantasy managers seemingly the world over. It's, as you just mentioned, Cancelo. Let's talk about Manchester City 5, Watford 1, because who saw... I mean, some people have brought Jesus in and captained him. Not many, but some people have done it. And I was thinking about it during the week because I was considering Sterling, but then I thought, oh, what about Jesus? And then just bottled it and got neither. But I'll be honest, he wasn't in my top 3 transfer targets this week. I don't think anyone saw that coming. Did you watch the game? Did you watch the absolute masterclass from Gabriel Jesus?
I only have caught match of the day from Saturday's games. Now that cricket season started, my football watching on a Saturday will be basically non-existent. So, yeah, I mean, who really could have seen this coming? We all expected a demolition of Watford, sorry. But the one thing, no clean sheet, was obviously ruined a lot of people because a lot of people will be doubling up on City defenders, potentially even tripping up in some cases if you're feeling really fruity and going for someone like Edison. But Cancelo to come away with just the 1 point because he picked up a yellow card as well, the only booking of the game, just to really rub salt in the wound. But I mean, Jesus going off, I think his bonus point score was 128 for the game. So that's just absolutely outrageous. I did read actually that since Jesus joined City, he scored 53 goals from an XG of 73. So he really underperforms on the chances he gets. But when you get this many chances in a City side with the quality they've got, then you've got to be banging some every now and then. And De Bruyne with a good return as well, who's someone I will definitely be keeping an eye on and potentially bringing in this week.
Oh, how would you... Let's get to that in a minute because I'm interested to see how you'd fit KDB in. I don't really have much to say. Watford are obviously dead and buried now. Man City are... I've struggled to see them dropping any more points if you look at their fixtures. But this game was... I don't think they ever got out of third gear, really. I think they were able to just stroll it. And if you look at 2 assists for De Bruyne, 128 points for Gabriel Jesus. Is Gabriel Jesus worth a punt for the last few games of the season? Assuming he doesn't play in the Champions League matches, he'll probably play in the Premier League. Once we see those lineups during the midweek, is it worth a punt, do you think, or are you not going to go near?
It feels like one of those that this is probably his one big return, and it could be a big trap going forward. So if I bring him in, he'll get nothing. If I don't, he'll probably get another hat-trick next week. So it's so hard to judge. But yeah, like you say, if he doesn't play in the Champions League, there's probably a very good chance he's going to be their starter in the Premier League for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Gabriel Jesus, I think, playing like a man, saying, come on, I need to be starting wherever I'm playing next season, as long as I'm not playing at Manchester City. Because once he's
very, very much putting himself in the transfer window, isn't he? Because if Haaland comes in, he's not getting any game time.
No, none whatsoever. So I think this was actually his season to prove it and prove he could be City's first choice striker, but he just hasn't done that. So now Haaland's coming in. I think he's going to be in the shop window and he's going to be looking around. So this was a nice way of showcasing himself. Cool. Anything else to say on Watford? They're coasting now. They're already relegated essentially. After last week, I think they were relegated. So anything else to say there? Denis with an assist as well.
Yeah, he's just taking the piss now, isn't he? Now that everyone's finally gotten rid of him, he's gotten a couple of returns. But like you say, they're 9 points from safety with 5 games to go. It's going to take an absolute miracle. So the only thing for them now is, what do they do managerially next season? I assume Hodgson doesn't stay. They've got to pick another new manager, which is the Watford way. And they'll probably lose quite a few of their players. So it's going to be a tough ask to bounce back again. But they often do. So I wouldn't put it past them. Yeah,
they're in a constant phase of rebuilding. And it's, if anything, it's quite impressive how they do it. But they never seem to be able to get that consistency. Let's jump to the early kickoff on Saturday then, which was Arsenal 3, Manchester United 1. As we both got Saka, I think we were both quite happy. Ronaldo played an absolute blinder and was on for 3 bonus points, but then got a yellow card right at the death, which took him down to 2. But in terms of this game, I think with this game and the game previously, if you had watched the first 80 minutes of the game previously and said, I want to sell Saka, people would have said, yeah, he's a sell, you need to go. Then he got that penalty late on. This game as well, until the second half, I don't think looked like a good fantasy asset. Then he came alive for that 25 minutes or so. So he seems to be having these bursts, and now he's on penalties. I think, assuming he's not injured, he's an absolute hold. Ronaldo again played brilliantly, but you just aren't going there if you don't have him already. How different would this game have been if Bruno Fernandes hadn't missed that penalty?
You'd think it would have been very different. I mean, it was a weekend of bad penalty misses. We'll talk about another one in a bit, I'm sure. But it's that little technique of the skip and the jump. When it comes off, you look brilliant. If it doesn't, you look like an absolute fool. But that would have changed the game, got them back on to level footing, and then who knows from there. But once you've missed that, it completely sucks the life out of you as a team as well. So at that point, Arsenal get a sort of a second wind almost, and then go on. Like you say, Saka really looked good after that. Got his goal, also got the assist for the first. So, like you say, he's got a slight flag at the moment, but I don't see him missing any game time for that. And all I can say from this one is what a strike from Granit Xhaka that was. I saw that shot had an XG of 0.02.
That's exactly the same as Ronaldo's versus Spurs earlier this season. It's really interesting with Arsenal. What do you think of Ramsdale? Because you're still a Ramsdale owner. I got rid, and I'm very happy I did, because he's making saves, but they're the kind of saves that he shouldn't need to make. He'll make a dive to push it around the post, but actually he could have just run and caught it, kind of thing. I think he's showing himself to be the player we all thought he was when he joined, rather than the player we saw initially.
I don't know. I still think he's a good keeper. I think Arsenal defensively as a unit have looked worse in the last month or so, which obviously hasn't helped him. You've moved off of him. I don't see myself getting rid of him just because I feel like I've got more points to be gained by transfers elsewhere, especially at this stage of the season. His fixtures coming up. West Ham this weekend, who will be off the back of a Europa League game, although admittedly it's at the London Stadium where West Ham have scored in every league game this season, so who knows there. They've got an all-right double. And I feel like with him and Sarr as my other keeper, there's sort of a nice rotation there. But I don't know. I just neither of my keepers fill me with great confidence at the moment. But like I said, I just feel like there's more benefit of making transfers elsewhere. I feel like Arsenal aren't that far away from clicking again, but they've got a lot of rotation in their back four at the moment, especially in the wing-back position. So I think that's bringing a bit of instability as a defensive unit, which often will end in being a bit more leaky. So I think that's where they are at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Other games from Saturday to go through. One I found really cool actually was Newcastle beating Norwich 3-0. And Newcastle playing away from home as well. They're looking really, really good at the moment. And since Eddie Howe took over, if you're looking at the Premier League table since Eddie Howe took over, Liverpool are first, but Newcastle are second. So Newcastle have picked up more points than Man City since Howe's takeover. So did you catch any of the highlights from this game? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, a caveat to that stat is they have played more games than City and Chelsea in that time. But even since Howe took over on a points per game basis, only Liverpool and City have more. So the run they're on at the moment is incredible. Their fixtures really turn now. So I think the next three are Liverpool, City and Chelsea, is it? So it'll be interesting to see how many points they can pick up from those games. But Joelinton picking up 2 goals, which in his 100th appearance for the club. I mean, like we've spoken about, his transformation this season into this new sort of box-to-box midfielder role has been outstanding, and absolutely massive credit to Eddie Howe for seeing that in him. And Bruno again with another goal. So what a signing he's been. Probably not someone else just popped in my head, but one of the signings of the January transfer window, along with Luis Diaz. For me, they're 2 players that have really sort of not transformed their teams in so much as Diaz, but he's really given new life into Liverpool in that wide area and an extra option, especially going deep in the Champions League. But Bruno was really, when he started, I think it's 4 goals in 7 starts since he's joined. He's just looked incredible, and he's really transformed this side around. So, like I say, watch their next few fixtures. I've still got St. Maximin who got me an assist this week, but he won't be staying around for long with these fixtures coming up.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're going to sell St Maximin, now is the time to do it. Norwich, they're dead and buried. There's not really much to talk about there, is there?
No, it's absolutely done. Again, so they're now 10 points from safety with 5 games to play. They just don't look like they've got any chance. And if you look at their fixtures as well, they've got a few. So Villa and Wolves, potentially, you could see them maybe getting something. Maybe even West Ham as well, again, with the European fixtures, but they've also got Leicester and Spurs in there. I know you mentioned a Pookie party last week, but I just can't see them really picking up much. I think it's maybe even after this weekend, you could see them very much with fixtures go against them. They can't go down, but it will be the final nail in the coffin pretty much.
It's cemented for sure. I think, Norwich are dead and buried, and there's not really anyone to invest in now. I think if you were going to go Pukki, you probably should have done it 4 weeks ago, really. I just got caught up in the hype.
And the alcohol.
And the alcohol, yeah, exactly. I was having a party. Leicester 0, Aston Villa 0. Leicester proving once again that they just don't care about having anything to play for. I was listening to, I can't remember which podcast it was, but they were saying that Brendan Rodgers, his job could rely on winning the Europa Conference League because they're not doing well in the league. He's obviously playing reserves in the league and he's going all out in the Conference League. I don't understand why Harvey Barnes isn't playing though, because surely he's not got many minutes under his belt. And we'll talk about Aston Villa in a minute because that's a whole other conversation with the fixtures coming up. But this game of football was really boring, really kind of drab. I think Leicester had, 5 shots, or there were 5 shots in the game or something like that, I read. But it just was a really, really bad game of football. Schmeichel getting 8 points was great, but football-wise, this was like watching paint dry. Did you see the highlights? Did you have any thoughts on this game?
Well, yeah, I saw the highlights. There weren't many of them. Like you say, it looked like a very poor game of football. I don't know if Brendan Rodgers' job rests on him winning the Conference League, but it will be interesting to see how they get on in that semi-final tie, which starts this week. They've still got a few good fixtures left as well. They've got 2 doubles in a row, one of which is Everton at home and Norwich at home. But obviously, it depends on who they're going to play in those with the rotation. Jamie Vardy came back in this game. He came off the bench. So will you see him getting some more minutes? Because obviously, you've got Iheanacho and Daka as well. How are they going to sort of rotate them? Because they're 3 pretty decent striking options. But like you say, Harvey Barnes not getting many minutes. I don't know. I feel like... Yeah, they've got all their eggs in the Conference League basket. They're sat in 10th in the Premier League. They're not going to reach the European places. So that is their route into European football next season. So it makes sense that that's where they're going to put all their focus. Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend... I think if you've got them because of the fixtures, if you've got Maddison or Schmeichel, they're a hold. But I wouldn't touch anyone else with a barge pole at Leicester at the moment, just because they are playing in the Europa Conference League and that is clearly the focus. Aston Villa. Now, I think the honeymoon period is well and truly over. They stopped the bleeding with this because they were on a bit of a losing run. So this draw did stop the bleeding. And it's a bit difficult with Villa, I'm finding, because they've got an awful lot of great fixtures coming up. So they've got Norwich next, then 2 doubles in a row. So with Villa, I wish they were in a bit of better form because then I'd be heavily investing again. But at the moment, I'm struggling with it. And I think they do factor into my transfer plans at the moment, but they're a bit of a struggle for me right now. What are your thoughts on Aston Villa at the moment?
Obviously, Norwich at home is a very good game. Like you say, they have sort of stopped the bleeding. Feels like they could, if they put a good run together at the end of this season, it could sort of carry a bit of momentum. You feel like their board are ready to invest again. They sort of invested heavily in January. I feel like they see Gerrard as the manager for the good next couple of years at least, unless a big job comes along for him, which maybe not yet. Norwich at home, obviously a very good fixture, then 2 doubles. 2 of those games are against Burnley, who are obviously fighting for their lives and looking quite good at the moment. So that's sort of, although they're good fixtures on paper because this is a team that are fighting relegation, at this point in the season, you want to be backing people that have still got things to play for, which Burnley do at the moment. Another one of those fixtures is Liverpool, Crystal Palace in there as well, who are a bit hit and miss at the moment, but a decent side, and then City. So although they've got lots of fixtures left, which obviously is a good thing, more fixtures, more chances, but I don't know. I don't think I'm looking to invest. I'm holding if I've got anyone, but I just don't think they're the ones that are ripe for big hauls at the moment, because even if you look at this game, only defensive assets have got anything. And are you backing their defence to really keep clean sheets all the time?
No, you're not. And I think defensively, let's not talk about Villa defensively, Luca Digne.
It still hurts.
Yeah, it still hurts. I'm also, whether I invest in them or not is going to depend, because if the Man City Wolves fixture gets put into 37, which I really, really hope it does, then I'll be Then I'll be free hitting in 37, which means there's probably not nearly as much value in me going for burning a -4 for Villa transfers. But again, that teams were divulging. Saturday, there's just Brentford 0, Spurs 0. Brentford just deserved this to win. Unbelievable how they didn't win. And Spurs, how good were they up until the last 2 games? And they've just gone full maximum Spursy. 0 shots on target in the last 2 games. 0. Considering we were all saying double up, triple up on Spurs assets, this is why we said you can only have one of Kane or Son, because when Spurs play like this, you can't invest in them.
It feels like this is the sort of story of the top 4 race at the moment. A team puts a couple of results together, and then you're like, oh, now you've got to go that way. So people will probably be looking at Arsenal now and going, oh, yeah, that's the way to go. And then you'll probably watch them, I don't know, somehow lose to West Ham this weekend. It just feels like no one wants this 4th place at the moment. So, yeah, it's very strange. No shots on target in the last 2, like you say, which for a side that in the previous weeks have created so many chances, maybe it's just people have realised that you can't give Kane that much space when he drops in and picks up the ball. They're stopping the runs in behind from Kulusevski and Son. Sounds like it's pretty simple, but maybe it finally has clicked with coaches that's how they need to play against them. Brentford hit the woodwork twice in this game, so they were unlucky not to come away with all 3 points.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if Brentford had a double, then I would be looking to invest in them. Unfortunately, it's because they don't have any doubles, they're just not a very exciting team to invest in. So otherwise, I'd be looking at Ivan Toney, or maybe game week 38, I'll go Weghorst to Ivan Toney. Who knows? Just for a bit of fun. Looking towards the Sunday fixtures then, and I think we've got to start with the controversial fixture, which was Liverpool 2, Everton 0. As a Liverpool fan, I probably have a tiny bit of bias. But
you reckon?
Well, here's the thing. It's something we disagree with, because I think it was a very, very soft penalty call, but Liverpool hat off. If that had been Salah or Mane at the other end and that hadn't been given, I'd be angry. Now, I don't think it's nearly as clear-cut as anyone thinks, and I think Everton are whiny, Atletico style. I hope they go down. They're crappy team, crappy people. But yeah, I think if Liverpool had that foul against them, I'd be furious if that wasn't a penalty. So I think Anfield bias probably was in full swing. What was your thoughts on it?
I said this yesterday. I feel like everyone seems to think it's an absolute stonewaller, and I'm not so sure. I think he's done the old Jamie Vardy, where he's in front of the man, and then he puts his body in between and waits for the contact. And Vardy was a master at this a few years ago, and he would do it all the time when he got lots of penalties. Their title-winning season the year after, he was masterful at it. He turned it into an art almost, the art of winning a penalty. But I don't know. I feel like it's one of those now that if it was given either way, I don't think VAR overturns it. So if it's given as a pen, they're not going to say no. If it's not given, they're not going to say there's conclusive evidence that should be a pen. and Lampard's turning it into another thing that he needs an apology from the referees and things like that. I don't see it as anywhere near that bad.
Yeah, I think Lampard's the master of complaining, isn't he? And these are the same fans that were desperate for null and void. So I don't have any sympathy and look forward to them struggling. I don't think they'll get relegated now, especially now Michael Owen has said Burnley are safe. I think Burnley are definitely going down. But yeah, on the game itself, Richarlison, I don't think I've ever hated a footballer as much as I hate Richarlison, and I'm including Jordan Pickford in that. So he legitimately had more time rolling around on the ground than he did actually with the ball at his feet. It was ridiculous. And he lives in his own world. No one else wants to live in that world with him. Everyone knows what he is. And you had the Liverpool team just passing around his body just because no one cared, because he's always done it and always will do it. And the fact Everton turned down 100 million bid for him from Barcelona a few years ago is hilarious.
It's crazy when you look back at that now, isn't it?
Mm.
He was outrageous in this game.
Broughton as well, actually. He was diving all over the place as well.
Yeah, he same thing for him. It was you could tell Lampard had sent them out with a way of just trying to disrupt Liverpool at every turn, trying to make it a bit more physical. There was a couple of incidents where there was a bit of handbags thrown around. And I feel like as the game went on and it was still 0-0, Liverpool players were getting frustrated and were biting a little bit more. But then once that first goal went in, it was game over from there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And
just bloody annoying that I haven't got Robertson anymore.
I was going to say, from a fantasy standpoint, Salah getting the assist, but Robertson being the clear winner. And if you look at his returns since, I think, game week 22 or something, is absolutely ridiculous. There's 1-0, but then the rest is like 6, 12, 15, 10, 6. It's absolutely mental. But yeah, I think the title race is very interesting. The relegation scrap is very interesting now. It probably more so, actually, because the title race we've seen it before, but we've never seen Everton in a relegation scrap. We'll get on to predictions in a minute because we're going to do them at the end of the pod. So let's jump on to the other side of the relegation scrap, which is Burnley beating Wolves 1-0. And a huge result for Burnley here. Absolutely massive. Could the escape be on?
Definitely. They're the side in form at the moment. Everton are really struggling. Burnley have won 3 of their last 5. Only lost 1 of those 5 as well, the other one being a draw. So they're the side in form at the moment. Yes, Everton have got a game in hand, but can you see them picking up any points really, especially away from home at the moment? They've still got Chelsea and Arsenal to play. Yes, they have 2 doubles, but it's going to take a lot for him to get out of it from here. Weghorst with another assist for you, obviously, if he comes off your bench. But the real story of this game for me was Nick Pope. He kept them in this game. Like he earned them that 3 points. And if they do stay up, they're going to have a lot of him. Like he's going to be the main man to thank, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're never getting him on fantasy, but as you say, he was the star of the show in this match. Cornet not playing and Vidra coming in. And I think I watched some of the game and Vidra, is it? I think Vidra and Weghorst actually played really well up top together. And don't get me wrong, Burnley are always a rubbish team to watch. But I think if you look at their upcoming fixtures, it's Watford away, 2 games against Villa, then Tottenham and Newcastle at home. Newcastle who will have nothing to play for. So I can feasibly see them getting out of it, and I can feasibly see them picking up points in all of those upcoming games, really. So, yeah, I think it's very much theirs to throw away right now.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it could be another thriller for Michael Jackson, couldn't
it? Leave. No, leave.
Bye, guys.
So looking at the other, Wolves are on the beach, right? Then ignore them from a fantasy standpoint. They're fully on the beach.
I mean, the thing is, they could still have ended up with 7th place because West Ham have got all the eggs in the Europa League basket. So if they'd have won this game, they'd have been level on points with West Ham with a game in hand. And you just think, I mean, that's still European football next year. So it seems strange that they are so far on the beach. They are like knee deep in sand.
Yeah, I think they're just completely uninvestable at the moment. Moving on then to Chelsea beating West Ham 1-0. So I'll start giving my thoughts on this because I'm sure you have an awful lot to say. Jorginho is a terrible penalty taker. You always just wait for the jump and you know which way he's going. Why people think he's good, I don't know. Why people think he's a good footballer, I don't know, to be honest. But I think West Ham, considering that they had essentially half their reserves out, played really well. The star of the show for me on fantasy was Marcos Alonso. But frustrating with Reece James and Rudiger not playing. But I think West Ham actually played really well and kept in the game, which I was very surprised at looking at the lineups. What were your thoughts on the game overall as you saw it?
When we saw the lineups announced, I was in the pub with my football team and we saw the lineups. A lot of us are West Ham fans. We were thinking, right, it's going to be 4-5-0. Yeah. Obviously, all the eggs in the Europa League basket. You've got no Declan Rice, no Antonio, no Bowen, no Lanzini. Like half of the first team, like you say, missing. Only one fit central defender. So we're playing two fullbacks at centre halves in a back three with then two other fullbacks at wing back. It just seemed like we were going to be absolutely rolled over. And I was pleasantly surprised with the way things went. We held them out pretty well for basically 90 minutes. I mean, Arsenal will be laughing now that Dawson's got that red card because we have no senior centre-backs available for next weekend, which is coming into my transfer planning for this week. But obviously, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Obviously, Fabianski picking up 3 bonus points because he's got that penalty save in there as well. But what an awful penalty it was. And I said earlier about the weekend of 2 penalty saves. Which for you is the worst penalty, Fernandes or Jorginho?
I think Jorginho, just because he's always terrible, whereas Bruno is normally brilliant. Maybe that makes Bruno's worse. But I think Jorginho is because he's a lot more cocky in general. And I just dislike him as a player.
Jorginho, I said this in the Euros final last year when he stepped up. You've just got to wait for him because what he does that step and he does that jump. And what he's waiting for is the keeper to move, and then he'll just roll it on the other side. If you don't move as the keeper, as Fabianski didn't do here, he just rolled it pretty much straight down the middle. So you don't get an easier penalty save than that. You've just got to hold your nerve and wait. So yeah, I think that's the worst. At least Fernandez's was near a corner. Yes, it hit the post and went out, but Jorginho just rolled it about a foot to Fabianski's right. It was terrible.
Yeah, absolutely dreadful. If you look at the fixtures, if you're not tripled up on Chelsea, you should be because they've got Everton away, Wolves home, Leeds away, Leicester at home, Watford at home. We mentioned Leicester, obviously, that's an easy game in the Premier League now. Brendan Rodgers isn't playing a starting 11, and I don't think you get better fixtures than that. Wolves on the beach as well. Then you've got Everton, Leeds, and Watford. So I think that you couldn't ask for an easier run for them. Even though they don't have anything to play for, they need players to be fit and ready and on form for the FA Cup final. So they've at least got that to keep them motivated. A couple of other games to very, very quickly touch on because honestly, there's not a whole lot to say about them. Oh, actually, we'll very quickly touch on 2-2 versus Brighton for Southampton. There, I'm using my words correctly, right.
Just finding the right words, but just mixing them up, putting them all over the place.
Not in the right order, clearly. This is professional podcast hosting. You can tell how well we edit these. Have we ever edited a podcast? Anyway, digressing. So Brighton 2, Southampton 2. I just don't care about this game. 2 teams that are quite literally on the beach and figuratively on the beach as well. James Ward-Prowse with 2 goals. I mean, no one's got him on fantasy. So have you got anything to say about this game? If not, we can just move on.
Do you remember a few weeks ago when you tried to get me to captain James Ward-Prowse?
Should have been now.
Should have been now. One stat for you. Brighton and Southampton, in all their meetings in the Premier League, the home side has never won.
Wow.
And you looked like it was going to change when Brighton went 2-0 up. But yeah, they threw it away. 2 very nice goals from Ward-Prowse, one from a free kick, which sort of went through the wall, but his second goal was a fantastic strike. But yeah, I don't think there's much else to say really. It's two teams that, as you say, are fully on the beach.
Yeah, definitely. Crystal Palace drawing 0-0 with Leeds. What a terrible game of football to start. Meslier actually kept Leeds in it, I think. I think he made 7 saves in this game. But if you look at the FDR, Leeds are suddenly in the relegation battle. They're only a couple of points clear at the moment. So Leeds are on 34 points, Burnley on 31, Everton 29, with Everton having a game in hand. And Leeds' next 3 games are Man City, Arsenal, and Chelsea. So 3 very tough games. And after that, Brighton at home, Brighton who are good away, and Brentford away, Brentford who are very good at the moment. Leeds are in real trouble, and I think they are very much now in that relegation scrap. It's 3 teams that very well could go down. I really don't want to see Leeds go down, but what do you think on that at the moment?
I just think I can't see Everton picking up 5 more points than them. So as much as, yes, their fixtures are very tough and it's going to be hard to see them picking up a lot of points, especially in these next couple of weeks, I can't see Everton catching them because they look terrible.
Well, I think this week it's difficult to judge Everton because they clearly went out to not play football. They went out to be anti-football against Liverpool. But yeah, I know we've still got Man United and Chelsea to go for this game week, but let's have a quick look at what's coming up because we touched on a lot of it briefly. Chelsea are a team to target. Man City are a team to target. Liverpool's fixtures aren't looking super easy or super great at the moment. But is there anyone else that you've got your eye on or any other teams that you're factoring in when you're looking at transfer plans and your team at the moment?
So I mentioned earlier about looking at getting De Bruyne in this week. And the way I want to fund that is by selling Son. Because Spurs' double in 36 isn't great. It's Arsenal and Liverpool. Although you could see him picking up big points there, I feel like City and De Bruyne in particular have got more potential for big points in the next few weeks. We're still just waiting for this double to be announced and when it's going to fall in. I'm sort of hoping it's going to go into 36, but we'll see. That will leave me tripled up on City with Cancelo and Laporte as well. And I would be looking at taking a -4 this week as well by going St. Maximin to Eddie Nketiah. As I say, with West Ham only not having any fit or available central defenders for this weekend, Arsenal could have a bit of a field day at the London Stadium, West Ham coming off the back of the Europa League first leg on Thursday night against Frankfurt. The last couple of games after European games, we have struggled a little bit, to put it lightly. And if we've got no defenders as well, then we could easily have a situation where we've got 2 under-23 players, Elise and Baptiste, both starting at centre-back. Although, obviously, they're quite good. They're professional footballers. They're still young. They haven't really got any Premier League experience. They played in the Europa League in our last group game when we'd already tied up the group. So they really haven't got any experience on the big stage. That could be interesting.
Could be. I think Nketiah might. It feels quite punty to me. That was punty with a P, by the way.
Oh, right. Not punty with a C.
No, not punty with a C. Just because I think Lacazette, he had COVID this week, but yeah, his head is probably in Lyon. I think he is going back there at the end of the year. But I do think Lacazette will probably get some starts down the stretch. Now, maybe that's against West Ham, but he was out with COVID, so obviously Nketiah started. But when Lacazette's back fit and playing, does he get the start or does Nketiah get the full 90? I'm not sure about it. KDB is a great option. As we know, they've got Leeds next, and they are going to get absolutely mauled by Man City, quite frankly. I think you're playing a very, very dangerous game, moving out to Spurs attacker versus a Leicester side that are really out of touch with the Premier League right now. And I was looking at my captaincy for next week. At the moment, it's on Salah, but I may move it over to Kane and go all in on that Spurs attack. just because at the moment I don't see Leicester doing very well at all. I've got Schmeichel, but he's the only player that is doing well. Maddison's first sub for me next week. I'm not sure about transfers. It depends on Saka's injury. So if Saka is able to play against West Ham, I'll obviously keep him. If he's not, then I'll likely roll the transfer and wait until next week when I can make 2 in preparation for the double game week 36. I'm not sure what that would be, but Kulusevski is probably the one that would go, and I don't really want to get him out while they've got Leicester next game. So at the moment, I'm looking at rolling the transfer. My team is looking like Schmeichel at the back, then Cancelo, James, Trent, Alonso, Rudiger. Then Salah captain against Newcastle, then Saka and Kulusevski, then Weghorst and Kane, bench of Maddison, Bentancur and Broja. What is your team looking like for next week if you're looking at doing the transfer?
So yeah, based on those transfers, it will probably Ramsdale in goal. As much as I don't like either option at the moment with Ramsdale and Sarr, I just think with West Ham coming off that European game, I feel like they've got a little bit more chance of the clean sheet. And Brighton, obviously, a lot better away from home. A back 4 of Trent, James, Cancelo, and Laporte. A midfield of De Bruyne, Salah, Saka, Kulusevski. And then this sort of could be fluid, either Maddison as a 5th midfielder or a front 2 of Mateta and Nketiah.
Interesting. Are you holding out with Mateta after yesterday's abject performance?
Yeah, I just don't really know what else to go with, because at the moment my other options off the bench will be
Weghorst.
I'm not going back. My other options on the bench would be Target and Broja. And
yeah, since I said Broja was better than Jimenez, he has done nothing, and that was about game week 26 or something.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. Goodness me. Looking at the rest of the season, then let's do some predictions, because there's only 4 game weeks left. I think 4 to 5 games for all of the clubs. So, who's going to win the title, Man City or Liverpool?
It's probably going to be Man City. Just looking at their fixtures, I can't see them dropping points anywhere. It's going to take an absolute miracle for anyone to pick up any points off them. So Leeds, Newcastle, West Ham, Villa. I mean, maybe in current form, Newcastle are the best chance. You could maybe throw West Ham in there, but as I say, European football was really taken priority for them. So I just can't see where they're going to drop any.
Last game of the season, Steven Gerrard's Aston Villa 1-0 with a Philippe Coutinho 89th minute to give Liverpool the title.
Could you imagine it?
I'm going to say
Coutinho, where do you want your statue?
Yeah. Alongside the one with the Divock Origi one. I love Divock Origi so much. What a player. I'm going to be hopeful and go with Liverpool. Everything you said, I agree with, but I'm a Liverpool fan, and I do believe in miracles, because this Jurgen Klopp team has made me believe in miracles. So I'm going to go with my heart over my head and say Liverpool. Top 4, I think the top 3 is pretty nails in. So who gets that 4th spot, in your opinion?
Can I say no one? None of them deserve it.
You'd be wrong, but sure. I think it's really Tottenham and Arsenal now. Man U, I don't see getting it.
Yeah, I think Arsenal, obviously in the driving seat. It all comes down to this North London derby in a couple of weeks. I feel like that will be the deciding factor. If Arsenal can avoid defeat in that game, then I'm backing them all day. I think they've probably got the slightly better fixtures as well, because Spurs have still got Liverpool as well. So I'd probably go Arsenal at the moment.
I'm going to go different again. I think Spurs have the perfect tonic game against Leicester. I think against Liverpool, they very well could get something, but they probably won't. But I would back Conte's Spurs to beat Arteta's Arsenal. I think, even though Arsenal were at home, I think Conte is that much better of a manager. He will outthink and outperform Arteta on the day. And I think Spurs, if you look at the teams, I think are slightly better.
Will Conte have his head turned by PSG, who apparently want him for next year?
Maybe, actually. He'll have 12 months left in his contract then, won't he? So PSG could definitely buy him out. But then I think he'll want to leave with a bang anyway. I'm going to back Spurs for that. I think Spurs are going to beat Arsenal and get top 4.
Big, bold prediction.
Mm-hmm. Europa League spots.
Well, yeah, it's
no one.
the other one of who we just said. So for you, Arsenal; for me, Spurs and Man U.
Yeah. Any chance? West Ham only 2 points behind Man U.
Yeah, but like I say, our fixtures aren't great. We've still got to play City. We've still got Arsenal this weekend. We've got no defenders. So I just can't see us. Like I say, our route into European football next year, mainly, we'll probably get the 7th spot anyway, which is Conference League. But if we can go in and win that Europa League, then we're Champions League next year. That's where we're focusing.
Yeah, absolutely, and so you should be as well.
Can you imagine West Ham in the Champions League?
It'll be brilliant. West Ham against Real Madrid in the group stage. Yes, please.
I'd love it.
A group of like Juventus, Real Madrid. Who else should be there? West Ham, obviously, and Bayern Munich. No, that's not possible, is it? Maybe Dortmund. Maybe Dortmund will be in it. Either way, that sounds awesome. Looking at the relegation fight then, because this is where it gets really interesting. I will go first this time. I think I'm really struggling with that. I'm going to say I think Leeds could be in a lot of trouble, but Everton are so bad. No, I'm going to go Everton going down. Everton, I don't see them picking up a win in their next 6 games. I think if they get 2 wins, then it's a completely different conversation. And I think out of their next 6 games, they'll need 3 wins, actually. 3 wins and a draw. I don't see them getting that. So I think Everton are going down.
It all comes down for me to... So the next 2, I think you can pretty much write off. Chelsea at home, not so much Leicester away maybe, but Everton's away form is terrible. And Leicester obviously still got the Europa Conference League to worry about. Watford away is a big one. Everton have got the worst away record in the league. Watford have got the worst home record in the league. So that is, like, as we've said before, the stoppable force and the movable object really colliding there. And then they've got 2 home games, and their home form is a lot better. They've picked up 23 points of their 29 at home this season, and they've got 2 home games in 37 against Brentford and Palace. Dependent on the situations of those 2 teams, who look like will have nothing to play for by that point, that's where they've really got to go and pick something up. And then they go to Arsenal in the last game of the season, who are probably going to be still fighting for that top 4 place. So that's going to be probably a write-off there. If they can get 7 points from those 3 games I mentioned there, who knows? Because like you say, Leeds' fixtures are very difficult, especially the next 3. It could make things interesting going into the last game of the season. But I'm still backing Everton. I think the current bottom 3 is the 3 that go down. Yeah.
As much as I want to say Leeds or Burnley, I don't think they do slip into it, considering fixtures as well. Watford are obviously going to have a lot to say in the touch race, being their next game is against Burnley, and they play Everton as well. So that could be very, very interesting to see how Watford dictating who they want to play next season, essentially. Watford have also lost 4 in a row as well, so they'll be looking to stop the bleeding. So they could have a massive say in it, in the same way that Newcastle could in the title race.
I don't think they could stop that bleeding. I think they've bled out.
Cool. Well, we've gone over players we want to target. What we're going to do for the next few weeks is continue these episodes just in the final run-in as well. We'll look to have a big end of season review podcast towards in about a month or so, when everything is wrapped up. We'll look at getting a couple of guests on for that as well. We've already got a couple of people that have said yes. We just need to maybe re-engage with them. Other than that, though, you can find us on Twitter at @BigAtTheBack. And Matt, you can find yourself where else?
You can find me personally at He's92. And also on the Pretty Bowlers podcast, obviously we've got an episode coming out very shortly. Looking forward to Thursday night's home leg of our Europa League semi-final against Eintracht Frankfurt, which could be an absolutely huge game for the club and maybe put us 1 foot in Seville for the Europa League final, which would be absolutely huge. And obviously you can find Tom at TomMadden92 on Twitter, where he's spewing his Liverpool biases all over the place.
Wonderful. Nice note to finish on there. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back next week, probably around the Tuesday or Wednesday, with more meaningful, deep insights into my butt. Cool. I started going into rap and then was like, no, absolutely not. Oh, what a way to end the podcast. I need breakfast. Good luck next week, everyone, and we'll see you all next week. Bye.